Okay, this is Lights, Camera, Action, or Begin When Ready. We're going to talk very briefly through that being prepared thing. What is the worst thing that could happen? I'm going to skip right into that slide and remind you of this movie. Well, the worst thing is that it could be pretty disastrous. And let's talk a little bit about what it is. I talked earlier about that idea of flying and pilots. And I remember seeing a show on Netflix, it was remarkable, talked about the pilots and a pilot who had an emergency, but on the way to the runway, he used to play a game with his crew and talk through potential things that could go wrong, and they would be sharp to tell him. That particular day when they flew, something did go wrong in the first 5 minutes, and because they had gone through this rehearsal in their head, the crew was more ready to perform, and that is what saved the day. Everybody worked as one man. I'm going to tell you about some of these ideas. Connectivity is a probable risk that you have. A platform hanging or needing to reboot is definitely something that could happen. Tech problems will happen, and so those are potentials. Here's how I think you can solve the connectivity problem. If you use your cell phone as a Wi-Fi spot, you could potentially switch very quickly and be still on your show without an interruption at all. Something like a reboot and get back into the room is something that you can have a message prepared. You can quickly run that message and just get it out there. And for general tech problems, it helps to have a slide that says we're aware of it, we're working on the problem, and then potentially go there. What can these slides look like? Well, you can even have fun in the moment of it. I would suggest something that is a little bit of a fun that says, we've hit a snag, listen, we're going to reboot, we'll see you on the other side. Maybe have a picture of being rebooted. So go, here's a reboot, let's, what can you do? The other thing that I also find very useful is to have a Q&A slide. When you get to the Q&A segment, and we're busy lining up for that, it is awkward at moments while you're leaning out and not looking at camera and stuff. And because of that, it is best to cut to a Q&A slide, which affords you that moment of awkwardness that's not there for your audience. Now I'm going to talk about this moment when emergency hits. Now, what do you do? Because, in that time, it just happens so quickly. And at the same time, it feels like forever. And it reminds me of a quote. This is Groucho Marx quote. He says, fruit flies like bananas, nothing flies like time. So I can tell you that seconds tick over, and in that moment of an emergency, it feels like forever, but it is probably just 4 seconds. And I think your audience will be forgiving. The first thing that you have to do is to remember to just persevere. Keep going. Keep going what it is that you're doing. Focus on the story, not on the tech. Know where you can cut and where you can modify, and just apologize once. But don't keep apologizing. Just once is good enough. And then I would say in the aftermath of it is to make right and then some. Send people something, send them a thank you, send them information, make right so that it isn't going to have reputational damage. And I would say after that, do a post-mortem, throw up, and then just go and play and be okay with it, because these things are going to happen, but you're trying to prevent it, of course. If there's a note that I can give you, in the Mnet days we used to work with presenters, it is to always have something in your back pocket is a trick that I used to use. And the idea is just to say there has to be something smart that you can come up with. If I quickly think about some of these back pocket ideas would be, an invitation at that time while things are going wrong to go, at this moment, I'd like to invite you to something I'm doing on my website. There's more information. I'm an up-to-date person. I'm a trustworthy source. Look at the production, the product that I have abundant. Another one would be to say, take time out to promote something, an upcoming event. A buddy of mine is doing this talk. Somebody that I've seen is doing a very interesting international thing. I thought to share this information with you. That could be a great back pocket idea. Or something to say, there's a sneak preview, something amazing that's happening in our field, and I thought it would interest you as an audience, and because of that, I'm going to tell you about it. So, in a funny kind of way, you can turn the catastrophe into something positive by just having something that you're going to say if something goes wrong. It's in your back pocket. All right, let's talk very briefly about don't do more damage. See, before you make a decision when the emergency hits, if you can have an outside opinion or a different perspective than your own, or try and just give yourself enough distance to make a decision, give it 2 or 3 minutes as a deadline, then make the call, and when you've made the call, stick by it. After that, you can inform with precision to everybody what's happening, and then, of course, do follow up and a little bit of damage control.